Hello, welcome to the Eclectic Reader. Listen to great books and stories while you use your eyes and hands for other things. Now here's your host, Madison Mason.
Hi, Madison Mason here. Well, we've done it. We've entered Area 51, Chapter 51 of The Gray Quarry Boys. Enjoy. The Gray Quarry Boys, Chapter 51, The Date. At exactly 5 p.m., the fact that Ronnie Morton was in the shower of his own volition constituted a minor miracle. But there he was, scrubbing every portion of his healthy anatomy. He wrapped the washcloth around his bony index finger and gave his ears a washing equal to his mother's work at her most exasperated. He rubbed between his toes, even scrubbed behind his dirty heels a second and third time until they hurt. Hot water thundered down, spewing thick clouds. Ronnie soaped up the cloth, spread it on the wall of the shower, and rubbed up and down against it backwards like a bear on a pine tree. He grabbed both ends and sawed back and forth across the back of his neck as if shining the toes of a pair of boots. He imagined it was a steel wire, and his head came right off and bounced around the bottom of the bathtub like a football. He rubbed between his legs. He scrubbed his butt until it was pink, and then the bottoms of his feet again. He washed his face so hard freckles flew off and disappeared down the drain. He poured a half bottle of his mom's best shampoo on his stubble and did the double duty of washing his hair and cleaning under his fingernails as he scraped his head. Finally, he shut off the water and emerged pink and shining, cleaner than ever before, and regarded himself through a hole he wiped in the cloudy mirror. A fresh baby pink face grinned back at him like a clown, ears sticking out too far and two molars missing. He swung open the medicine cabinet and poured thick wild root cream oil hair tonic with lanolin over his head. It smelled rich and sweet. Detectives and movie stars wore it too. It made him feel grown up and important on his first date, and he liked that a lot. Then he took his mom's comb and very carefully parted his hair down the left center, real straight and neat, and combed it down all around, then back on the sides. He wiped the thick white gunk from the comb. Mom hated that stuff in her comb. Back in his room, calm and careful, significant, he was a matador preparing for the first fight. His suit of lights laid perfectly on his bed. He finished drying, spread the towel on the floor, and stood on it so no dust would touch his feet. First he pulled on his fresh white shorts, then stepped into his socks. One had to come off and go on again. It was inside out. Then the pants. No, first the crisp white shirt, then the pants. Now step into the shoes and put on the belt. Next, snap on the red bow tie and rub the shoes on the back of the slacks to shine the toes. Good. He stopped and sniffed. He sniffed again. What was that smell? It was terrible. His pants smelled burnt, like toast. They stank awful, like scorched hair or something. Ronnie sat down on his bed and put his face in his lap, inhaling his pants legs. What could he do? These were the only pants with a crease. He searched his mind for a solution. Then it hit him. He grabbed a bottle of Old Spice that his Aunt Virginia gave him for Christmas and poured lots of it in his hands, rubbing it well into the cloth of his pants legs. Pretty soon he couldn't smell the burned part anymore because his room reeked of Old Spice. He rubbed some on his cheeks for good measure and slipped his jacket on. Then he faced the full-length mirror on the back of his closet door. He liked what he saw. He gave himself a thumbs up, a wink, and went to the living room to wait on the couch for Mom. He was sitting still as starlight when the front door blasted open and Joey came tearing through the living room on course for the refrigerator. Joey sniffed and slammed to a stop, panting, taking in his kid brother from scuffed toes to oily hair. A deep evaluative silence prevailed. Ronnie squirmed under the clinical gaze of greater age and braced for the worst. No one can dispense death, swift and unrelenting to the tender-hearted like an older brother. Ronnie glanced away, practicing invisibility. It didn't work. Neither of them disappeared. But the cut never came. Instead, Joey grinned. Hey, you look great. I do? Really? He wasn't sure he heard right. Yeah, but you stink like hell. How come you're dressed up? Who died? Nobody. I'm going to the fall festival. Yeah, me too, but not in a tuxedo. Ronnie took a deep breath and said in one long, soft sigh, I've got a date. I'm taking a girl. The silence was thunderous. Joey's bottom jaw slammed down to its fullest extension and his eyes rounded like fried eggs. He regarded his brother with open awe. There was a brief eternity before anyone spoke. Get out of here. For real? Yep. You're only 10 years old. So? Ronnie was sensitive about the age thing. It was often used to abase him, and he didn't like it. So cool. You'll be the only guy there with a date, man. Who? You don't know her, he said, protective. I might. Who? Roxanne Penninger. What? Roxanne Penninger? He goggled. Yeah, Ronnie was weary. You know her? Never heard of her. She pretty? Yeah, pretty. Joey, do I really look okay? Great, you look great. I'm proud of you. The old spice is kind of making my eyes burn, but it'll wear off. Oh, aren't you handsome? Mom crooned, pinning on her big silver earrings as she entered the living room and glowed. Thanks, Mom, Joey Wise asked. It made Ronnie giggle. Joey always cracked him up. I think we all know who I'm talking about, Joseph. Are you going to the fall festival dressed like a rag picker? Or do you intend to change into something more fitting for the occasion? And do you want to go with us or ride your bike? Benny's coming over. We'll ride our bikes. Joseph, honey, please shower and change your clothes. I don't want people to think we're war refugees. She kissed her dirty boy and turned to Ronnie. Ready, dear? Out in the yard, Ronnie Morton waited in the early dusk while his mother backed the station wagon out of the garage. Just as he got in the car, he had a sudden urge to give his date some token of gentlemanly regard. But being October, all the cream-colored roses with the soft pink edges in the driveway hedge were long gone. Mom, can we stop by a flower shop? A flower shop? Honey, the nearest one is over in Jefferson and they'd be closed. It made her want to cry to see him like this. "'Kay." Her little man sat straight and tall beside her as they drove the small expanse of gray quarry. The pines blurred past the windows of the big American car as Mom turned off Glasgow Road and they could hear the gravel hitting the bottom of the car, a pattering counterpart to Mozart playing joyously in the dashboard. They hummed along as they pulled in front of the red brick house and stopped. Ronnie gulped the tennis ball in his throat and swung open the heavy door. He disappeared into the dark behind the car. His mother looked for him, wondering what in the world, when he reappeared at the doorstep in the circle of the yellow bug light and banged with the brass knocker. The door swung open, little Roxanne appeared, and Ronnie's hand rose, filled with oak leaves with a clump of scarlet china berries, an improvised bouquet. Roxanne's blue eyes smiled happily as he thrust the makeshift nosegay awkwardly forward and mumbled, "Happy fall, Roxanne." Mrs. Penninger appeared in the doorway and waved at Mrs. Morton while Ronnie opened the station wagon door and the two kids got in back. She laughed gently and placed her hands over her heart. The mothers shared a secret moment, after which the car, all passengers waving, pulled away. "Good evening, Mrs. Morton," said Roxanne, on her best behavior. "Thank you for taking me to the fall festival." Mom smiled in the rearview mirror to keep from laughing aloud and told her son's date how happy they were that she could come. Two small hands found each other in the dark, intertwining. "You smell nice, Ronnie." It was dark when they got to the school, and the light streaming from the old three-story schoolhouse fell in square pools on the front yard. Jack-o'-lanterns grinned in every window, skeletons chased black cats, and witches flew in all directions, the product of weeks of busy little hands. As they strolled up the concrete walkway leading to the school entrance, Mom noticed an enormous hole dug in the ground off to the right. Maintenance men had obviously trenched deep in the yard for some reason. There was a trough some 8 by 12 feet wide and 6 feet deep with a wood barricade in front. The kids were too excited and focused on the brilliant lights of the doorway to notice. They bounded up the stairs into the gleaming world of color, light, and noise. The big banner read, "Welcome to the Fall Festival." Kids ran clomping through the wooden hall from one place to another, dragging parents from room to room, as the semester's work was shown proudly on the walls and old hallways smelling of chalk dust and children's bodies. The scents and sounds flew Mrs. Morris back 25 years to her own girlhood. Something special was going on in every room. A show, a play, a recital, magic, and the halls were lined with booths. You could fish blindfolded for prizes, get made up like a clown, eat pies, have your weight guessed, your fortune told by a real-live gypsy who was really Michelle Fratkin with a turban. She could read your palm and the lumps on your head. You could get a tattoo, bob for apples, and throw cream pies at Mr. Ransom, a fifth-grade teacher who stuck his head through a hole in a sheet. 15 kids stood in line for that one. Screaming laughter bounced off the old cracking plaster walls, joyfully reverberating with life. There were balloons and streamers everywhere. People smiled and laughed and were happy to be with one another. Teachers discussed children's work with parents in the most positive terms. It was the very best of times. Roxanne and Ronnie ran off to join their class in the auditorium for the Square Dance Jamboree. Mrs. Morton said she would come and watch when it was time. Each room had a theme, and everyone was punctuated with an exclamation point.
We hope you have enjoyed this episode of The Eclectic Reader. Please go on to the next numbered episode to continue. Also, check us out on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. If you'd like to help support the project, you can donate under Madison Mason at Patreon. And please, check out our website, kltkrdr.com, for more information.
Hi, this is Madison Mason. I want to personally thank you for listening to The Eclectic Reader and invite you to share your experience, your thoughts, and your suggestions. We have many great books lined up for the future, but if you have requests for anything that is in the public domain, please email us at kltkrdr@gmail.com.
kltkrdr@gmail.com